afternoon and welcome to the Midday News. Here's what we have in the bulletin. Businesses found guilty of engaging in price gouging will be prosecuted. Opposition calls for equity in hurricane relief initiatives. And later in sports, West Indies Test coach admits difficulty for team in the first test versus England. Thank you for joining us. I'm Shamela Pullen. Here are the details. Businesses found guilty of engaging in price gouging will be prosecuted. That's according to CEO of the Consumer Affairs Commission, Dulcie Allen. The authority has been taken to task to monitor business activities following the passage of Hurricane Beryl. Ms. Allen was speaking on TVJ Smile Jamaica this morning. Karen Simpson reports.
The Consumer Affairs Commission says it will be going after businesses that have taken advantage of customers following the passage of Hurricane Beryl. CEO of CAC, Dulcie Allen, says there has been a history of the practice after a disaster.
Under this order that the minister has given, it's dated July 2. And by the way, there are fines. If you are found guilty, you can be fined up to $1 million. Up to $1 million. So it is not a joke thing. It's a serious thing. We hope we don't have to reach this stage. And we hope that persons will use their hearts to say, okay, yes, you're in business. Yes, but we want you to be fair. We want you to be reasonable. Yeah.
She says although it's out of the organization's remit, it will also be going after tradesmen.
Services as well. So like masons and carpenters know their prices tend to go up during this time because the need is there. So that is also an area that's really outside our remit.
Right,
it's outside our remit, but it's one thing I just want to caution persons as well. So we have been speaking to the Master Builders Association for them to give us an idea of what are the normal going rates.
She says the CAC is looking at building a policy around consumer protection, but in the meantime, an order from the government works.
During these times, the government can give a special order that prices are not to be increased as a result of a major catastrophe, example now Beryl. So the minister has actually given an order, which is, it really is the sale of goods during a declaration of a disaster. And if found that you have increased your prices just because of, it's not a situation where your cost of production went up or your cost of doing business went up as a result, you're giving all these increases, but you just give a whopping because a demand has been created as a result of that disaster, and you're taking advantage of that. Okay.
In the meantime, Ms. Allen is reminding consumers to exercise their power by educating themselves and to report cases of price gouging. Karen Simpson, TVJ News.
The government says it is contemplating rerouting some of the problematic drains across the island. Speaking in Rocky Point, Clarendon on Saturday, Prime Minister Andrew Holness says part of the challenge when there is heavy flooding is the geography of the area.
I'm standing right beside a drain, an earthen drain, which runs into the sea. But the real challenge is that the land is probably at or below sea level. So this drain should be leading water off land into the sea. But at high tides, it leads water from the sea into the land. And when it rains, even if the water is running off the land into the sea, it is also carrying sediment. And so this is quickly blocked.
Which is why the possibility of rerouting drains is high on the government's agenda.
Possibly to maybe lower areas into the marshlands, possibly, and to ensure that the people who have to conduct their business around it are safe, because we have had reports of crocodiles coming up into the drain and animals and so having been affected by that. So we're trying to do a very comprehensive recovery.
Meanwhile, Labour Minister Pernell Charles Jr. named specific areas in southern Clarendon where assistance for Hurricane Beryl victims will be given soon.
We're moving into areas like Gimmimibit, Racecourse, and areas in southwest Clarendon and along the south coast. And so the Ministry of Labour is working not just with and across government, but with the NGOs, Food for the Poor, Red Cross and others, to see that we can do the assessments and provide the support in as timely a manner as possible.
The opposition, People's National Party, is calling for a fair distribution of relief supplies following the passage of Hurricane Beryl. Members of the opposition toured yam farms in southern Trelawny recently. The PNP wants to see relief supplies channeled through the government's agricultural agencies.
People normally refer to Trelawny as yam country. I mean, so it's very important. I think you have about 30,000 hectares of yam under production in the country. So it's a major industry, earning, I think, $50 million US last year. And we're not talking about the domestic earnings. That's just from export and those other things. So, you know, people would have contracts that they have to supply yams to Canada, to the US and elsewhere. And what you don't want to do is for them not to be able to deliver on those contracts. So we want to see some assistance.
Meanwhile, local government minister Desmond McKenzie recently assured that state relief will not be done along party lines. Residents in Pentonville, St. Thomas are calling for action in light of the state of the roads in the community. They're accusing the authorities of neglect. Karen Simpson explains.
The erosion at this bridge in Pentonville, St. Thomas is now a cause for concern as the area once comfortably driven on has become too narrow and even too scary to walk on. Residents say the situation has worsened since the passage of Hurricane Beryl. Temporary work to correct the issue was washed away by the heavy rain.
This hole in the road, as you can see, it's a perennial problem. Whenever it rains heavily, this is what generally happens. When the bulldozers come, they clean the road and they fill it up back with that loose dirt, which is not sufficient to hold it. It becomes perennial because the problem is always there. It only needs rain to come again, heavy rain.
There are also safety concerns.
School is in session, like for summer class now, you see people walking on the road. When people them pass, they all have ear to walk. Or if you even overtaking or even stuff come off on the south shoulder, it's in danger to all of those people passing by.
The residents say oftentimes they have to come up with their own fixes because
nobody no member we around here, so. Nobody now come around here, so come find out nothing about it. From the highway bill around here, so, nobody no member we here, so. We just like we left in a little hole last to ourselves. Nobody no member we. One time they remember we went to them, want you do something. When election time I come around and they want to vote and they want this and that.
When contacted, Member of Parliament for St. Thomas Western James Robertson says the area will get attention under the Shared Prosperity Through Accelerated Improvement SPARK program.
We had our consultation in the SPARK program, and that is one of the areas that I believe was highlighted, strongly represented and highlighted. So I am of the opinion that that area will be successful under the SPARK program to be addressed. So there's two things. One, the National Work Agency immediately addressing the issue under the Restoration and Storm program as we speak, that just passed a week ago. And two, under the SPARK program. I am very hopeful that it will be done.
It's time for a break. Stay with us. More stories when we return. Welcome back to the Midday News. Bureaucratic red tape and a shortage of technicians are significant challenges plaguing the country's health sector. But Chairman of the Southern Regional Health Authority, Wayne Chen, says despite the challenges, the Regional Health Authority has been fulfilling its mandate. Chairman of the Southern Regional Health Authority, Wayne Chen, is again cautioning against politicizing healthcare. Mr. Chen has been in the firing line of the opposition, who's been calling for his resignation in light of the state of public healthcare facilities in the region.
Certain things are too fragile, too important, too delicate to become ammunition. So we stand away from it. We are not above criticism, never. We are not above accountability, never. But it must be fair, it must be constructive, and it must be mindful that there are many human beings running a system that we depend on.
While acknowledging the challenges, Mr. Chen defended healthcare workers, stating they are burnt out from going above and beyond to fix a broken system they inherited.
When I call team members now, they are distressed. I was speaking to the very same Bradley. Bradley, never called today. I was speaking to the very same Bradley the other night. And I said, Bradley, you sound like you're about to have a stroke. Tired, despondent. Man normally positive and bubbly because I'm under a lot of public pressure now. Them call him out this, call him this one call him, that one call him. And it is right through the leadership right now. They cannot continue to cope with all the assaults on them.
Mr. Chen adds that despite the many challenges, including chronic staff shortage, the Southern Regional Health Authority has been fulfilling its mandate. It's now time for the Business Minute.
The Jamaica Business Development Corporation says it will be providing assistance to micro, small and medium-sized enterprises, MSMEs, to be compliant with the data protection regulations. Deputy CEO at the JBDC, Harold Davis, says the organization has signed a deal with a company out of the UK to assist with this project.
An entity out of the UK called Secures, and that agreement is about preparing our MSMEs. And why is it important? For fairness and for just transparency and just mostly for market access and for relevance and for internationalization of your business. That's one. But the other part of the agreement with this and is about actually hand-holding our MSMEs to make them ready, prepared for the compliance that is required.
Further afield, Delta Airlines is changing its uniform policy for flight attendants after passengers complained about some wearing Palestinian flag pins. A social media post sparked the issue when two different Delta flight attendants were seen wearing what they called, quote, Hamas badges, unquote. Starting Monday, Delta employees can no longer wear pins that represent any other country besides the US. The world's largest airline in terms of revenue immediately made the policy change after the images went viral on social media. After the fallout, Delta says it wants to create a, quote, safe, comfortable and welcoming environment for all. And that's it for the Business Minute. I'm Hal Shane Burke.
Time now for the top regional and international stories.
In the region, the police have launched an investigation following the seizure of 42 pounds of cocaine at the VC Bird International Airport in Antigua on Saturday. The seizure was made as the police and customs officials were conducting a joint drug operation at the airport when they discovered a black suitcase with 16 vacuum-sealed packages of the controlled substance inside. The suitcase with the substance was taken to the police station for further investigation. No one has been arrested in connection with the find. However, the Class A drug is said to value over 600,000 Eastern Caribbean dollar. On the international scene, the attempted assassination of former President Trump has prompted widespread condemnation and calls for national unity. Leaders from both political parties and around the world have denounced the violence, emphasizing that political violence has no place in America. President Biden underscored the urgent need for unity, describing it as paramount. Despite the heightened tensions, security measures for the convention in Milwaukee remain unchanged under the designation of a national special security event. And those were the top regional and international stories. I'm Raquel Porter.
Thank you, Raquel. We head to a quick break. When we come back, we'll have your midday sports report with Jordan Ford.